Great. And thanks, Pat. Can you all see my screen as well? Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you all for joining in drop-in session. I think we've got all the panelists on. Trudy, are we all good for starting off and recording to be kicked off?
Yes, we are. Thanks, Philip.
Thanks, Trudy. Good morning, all. So, just as every tech drop-in that we've been doing, this session is going to be recorded. We will share the recording link at the end of the meeting, as well as the deck that we are going to walk through. So, brilliant. So, thank you for joining in. We did see a few people join in a little early as well. Thank you. So, as we begin today's session, I wanted to actually start and welcome you with an announcement. Now, Veritas is happy to announce the availability of Enterprise Vault 14. This is the latest and the greatest release of Enterprise Vault. And Enterprise Vault 14 has been GA'd and is available earlier this month. The new release comes with loads of features, enhanced supervision and discovery features, helps you strengthen your e-discovery processes as well as your compliance plans. There are a lot of flexible deployment options. Now, this is where you start thinking about getting Enterprise Vault deployed in either AWS or Azure and try to leverage cloud storage as well as your archiving target. So that's a flexible deployment option that comes in. We do want to make sure that 2020 has not just been unique in terms of how the pandemic changed the way we are operating, and we also need to start considering broader content sources. So Enterprise Vault 14 brings around 80 plus content sources beyond emails, and we'll probably focus more on to that aspect of the session on the session today. But we will look forward to hearing your feedback on Enterprise Vault 14. So if you're considering an upgrade, if you're considering getting the latest and the greatest of Enterprise Vault, speak to your account representative from Veritas or reach out to us, and we'd be happy to facilitate a conversation and a deep dive. So again, go ahead and start planning for Enterprise Vault 14. Thank you. All right, so for the session today, this is again yet another technical tech drop-in session. I am expecting this session to be close to 25 minutes, 30 minutes of presentation followed by demo. Feel free to type in your question and answers in the chat window or the Q&A window of the Webex event. And we are here more than happy to help you with questions around this topic. We did receive a few questions in the beginning or prior to the registration, and we will address them as we go along. But if you have any questions around compliance and archiving and how Veritas can help, feel free to type those in, as well as any other questions on data management in general. Happy to help. All right, and to help facilitate the session today, we have our lead architects from Veritas across Australia, and we are also going to have a JB Hi-Fi voucher for the best question asked. So it's a $50 voucher which we will hand out after the session today for the best question that has been asked on the session or previous in the registration phase. So to help us today, I have Jeff Coley. Jeff is the Director of Engineering and Architecture for Australia. Jeff leads the team, the technical team here in Australia. I also have Patrick and Ranga to help me with the session. Patrick and Ranga both are solution engineers, just like I am. So we've got a good panel here to take your questions. Happy to walk you through the details as required. As we go along, I'm actually going to start with a magic number, a number that should not be a surprise to every one of us. What Gartner is anticipating is 74% of organizations, now these are SMBs, are considering a permanent shift from actual office work to remote work. This is predominantly an outcome of the pandemic or the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this number isn't something that is puzzling. We did see the trend going towards remote working across multiple, for several years, but then the surge has just been significant this year. But then what does this really mean to you and me? What does it mean to, the stakeholders in the IT space, in the compliance space? That simply means that we are talking about the world of more. We are talking about the world of more social media. This is where, because everybody is now remote, this is where the organizations and people as part of the organizations are now going to start using platforms which are broader and has a lot higher reach out. So the world of Twitters and the Facebook Workplace and all of the social media platforms have suddenly started to be relevant, and business information has been shared or has been started to share on social media. Chat platforms, communication platforms, this has been by far the most extensive expansion of content creation. So just look at Teams, or just look at how we start talking on Jabber. The amount of communication that has started to happen on the chat platforms is phenomenal, and we are seeing that not just within a particular sector. It's just manufacturing sector, finance sector. All of these sectors are showing the same expansion and growth. Collaboration tools. Now, the brilliance of what Microsoft Teams and the Slacks of the world has brought in is it is just trying to simplify how two people can work remotely and seamlessly without really taking that impact of the communication gap. Now, these collaboration tools have just sprung up significantly, and there are several standard uh, platforms that the companies work through, and it's just seen that within our realm, we've seen WebEx, we've seen Teams, we've seen Zoom. All of these technologies are so evolving at such a fast rate that migration from one technology to the other is happening. So that's the beauty of collaboration tools as in general. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we are in the world of more. It's not just more content creation platforms, but it actually means more audits as well. Now, in my previous experience, the company would always want to audit things which are relevant to the business. Now, suddenly the line between, or the delineation between social and professional world has just gone away. Now, we are now talking about having an audit system built beyond what business requires an enterprise. And that drives compliance regulation. So more audits, more compliance regulations, and more rules to follow. Now, that is typically 2020. In an IT world, that is how 2020 has panned out. But I'm afraid to say that it's just not the problem of 2020. It is actually well beyond and ahead. Now, this is the time when we start thinking of, the need of information visibility goes beyond just emails. Now, that is the focus of the conversation today. And as part of our portfolio, the Veritas portfolio, happy to announce that Veritas has acquired Globanet. Globanet is the leading content archiving platform, which goes well beyond emails. Now, the acquisition actually makes the come together as part of the Veritas data insights portfolio. And that acquisition actually helps us deliver extensive value from not just enterprise email archiving, but well beyond that. So essentially, when Globanet and Veritas come together, we have a unique data capturing solution for your discovery and archiving needs. Now, Globanet brings in 80 plus native connectors. Now, when I say connectors, these are your data capture or importing plugins that go into 80 plus content sources. Now, these include Office 365. It goes into Teams. It starts archiving and pulling information from Teams chats. It also goes and starts archiving information from your Slack and the entire gamut of all these collaboration and chat platforms. So the reach that Globanet, or the Merge1 solution that Globanet provides has just gone well beyond Enterprise Vault and beyond email archiving. Now, when I merge that with the experience that Veritas brings in reviewing and compliance space, we are now aggregating the entire 80 plus content source into the single platform of your e-discovery as well as compliance archives with Enterprise Vault. So essentially, we are now helping the content team to have a clear process, a clear e-discovery mechanism well beyond emails and taking your entire discovery process to the remote working world. So that's the power Enterprise Vault and Merge1 together can build. As we go along, Merge1 is the solution that we are talking about, where we can have 80 plus content sources built in, and we can pull all of that information and archiving into Enterprise Vault. Now, the actual process, we are going to look at the process. We'll also try to look at how simple it is to integrate Merge1 with Enterprise Vault, and how the discovery process does not really change, or even the risk and compliance teams don't really change the way they operate, the way they process their search requests. It's just so integrated with Enterprise Vault as it is. So as if I have to draw out what this really means, and I'm making some assumptions in terms of, your awareness of Enterprise Vault, feel free to ask a question or put in a query if we need to go deeper into how Enterprise Vault in general works. But technically, if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at all the content sources, which could be email servers, which could be, it could be storage, file system storages, as well as direct clients. And then Enterprise Vault by nature is designed to archive from all of these content sources. Now, we do have our data insight product solution, which helps bring in further analytics on your unstructured content on file stores as well as cloud storage. But essentially, what we are talking about is an archiving solution provided by Enterprise Vault. Now, when Merge1 comes in, it's simply going to expand the realm of where Enterprise Vault could archive, and we are now bringing in all these connectors into Merge1, and then Merge1 helps us build that into Enterprise aggregated archive. Now, this aggregated archive is actually something that has already been set up in your environment to do email archiving or journal archiving. And this is exactly an expansion to get all the other archiving platforms or content platforms into the archive. Now, my e-discovery process, it could be using Discovery Accelerator, it could be Compliance Accelerator, or even e-discovery platform. That remains unchanged. Now, search on all of this content put together in Enterprise Vault and simply give you the ability to span your search or e-discovery process into these new archives. If I look at what are the platforms supported, of course, there are, as I said, there are 80 platforms or connectors that we have. And these are the few popular ones that we see. We have connectors going across Slack. We have connectors going through Twitter, Facebook for Workplace, Teams. Now, Teams actually has been one of the most popular connectors that we've seen of late. But then it just does not give you the ability to build standard importers, but we also have custom importers. Now, custom importers actually give you an ability to start archiving a website. Now, what I mean by archiving a website, and the use case that I'm talking, if I have an internal website or a public website where I'm constantly uploading call logs, or it could be any data that has been going into a website, you can actually create a web page importer which scans for new content and archives that into Enterprise Vault. Now, suddenly what you have expanded or opened the doors for is a custom application that has a web page interface and which has data that is represented on the web browser, can also be archived into Enterprise Vault, and then you have the same search capability and the discovery capability built in. So there is a significant customizable options that we can look at from an importer's point of view. So that's Merge1. What the intent of today was to introduce what Merge1 and Enterprise Vault can do together. We will look at a demo of how that works, but let me stop here and see, Pat, Ranga, if there are any questions. And I would actually then go to Jeff for a few comments as well. But Pat, Ranga, any questions so far?
There is one on the chat. Does
Mhm.
Merge1 has a connector that also integrates into Salesforce? I can take that. The answer is yes. We do support Salesforce. So there's Salesforce Chatter, Salesforce Chatter for Cypher Cloud, and there's Salesforce Marketing Content. So there's multiple bits that gets archived here. Possible. Yeah, please connect with us if you need more info.
Thanks, Ranga. Thanks for that question. I will keep moving. I'd actually now like to move towards Jeff now. Can you hear us all right? I haven't heard you on this. Can you just give us an audio check?
Roger that, loud and clear.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jeff. All right. So, Jeff, now that it's been 8-9 months that we are in this state of pandemic, and we've seen the industry transition from where we were into remote working. How have your conversations with the CIOs and the CTOs of large and small organizations shaped up, and what are their concerns in terms of their e-discovery or compliance processes?
Yeah, look, I think the conversations have become more urgent around being able to classify and apply some degree of treatment to address regulatory and compliance requirements beyond just structured, which is not a place to where we play, but structured and also semi-structured and unstructured data, which is where Veritas plays a key role. So traditionally, EV from a Veritas standpoint was great for email archiving, but through market shifts and time, we've seen the adoption of Office 365, which is great. But what it also means for our customers is the archiving need isn't so much just about email, right? It's far broader. And it's being able to have an omni-channel, to I guess use a term, approach to how different content sources can be treated, or how you can effectively classify and then provide some degree of control across them. So irrespective of whether it's, as an example, some form of mobile or text function, it's in the ability to take in a parse an XML feed. Now, an XML feed could be from a multitude of different sources, but I might go really broad for a minute and say it's to do with a click to chat on a web page, or it's to do with some degree of a feed coming from a contact center, right? Or whether it's looking at the requirement to be able to regulate or archive a specific conversation pertinent to something that's happened in, say, Jabber or Slack or Teams, as an example. I'm personally using less email, not more. I'm getting more email, to be blunt, than I like, but I'm also using Teams. And from time to time, even I can find a requirement to go back and say, now, what did Amit tell me way back when? So if I've got that requirement as a standard user, and if we're using things like Teams and we're using Teams as a collaboration source across companies, all of a sudden we end up in a situation whereby we might want to be able to classify or archive something that's happening. Now, certainly from a roadmap perspective as well, we're going to take this to video, I understand. So there'll be points of integration, which is what Merge1 connectors provide to do that. So there'll be updates and further commentary from the business, from corporate and Veritas on that. But Rango, hopefully I answered the question, because I think it's the fact that we live in a world of collaboration now. We work with many different tools and systems. We're expected to be able to work together. I'm sitting in my back garden because my daughter's off school. She's been sick, and my wife decided she's had enough of me already this morning. So we're all working from different locations with different tools and different systems, and the business requirements are increasing because these tools and systems have become pervasive to our way of life. I hope that answered the question, Amit.
Absolutely, that did. And I think you made an interesting point that we live in the world of collaboration tools, and it does not, and I have seen that and I've heard that from a lot of enterprises, that it does not take time from, for moving from one collaboration tool to the other. So because it's such a fast moving space, that organizations are actually considering newer features coming in a different collaboration platform, and then you switch from one platform to the other. Now, what that really means is you're not just switching the end user experience, but you're actually going back and impacting the search and compliance process that the lawyers as well as the risk mitigation team needs to handle. So the beauty of what we are talking about here with Merge1 and Enterprise Vault is as long as you have your processes carved out with Enterprise Vault and Discovery Accelerator and e-discovery platform and the likes, team or the compliance team doesn't really need to worry about whatever changes that happen in the front end. That is the level of abstraction that this solution can bring in. And Merge1 has 80 plus connectors that any new connector that or any new platform that has been adopted can automatically be archived in the same process, and the end user who are the compliance team and the discovery team don't really need to change anything. So that's the simplicity that comes in. All right. Thanks, Jeff, for that. Brilliant context. I'll keep moving. I have now. I'll jump into the demonstration. Let me see. We are doing well on time as well. So demonstration today. What I'm going to actually show you is, here is what my demo environment looks like. I have Enterprise Vault 14. Now, we are not going to deep dive into Enterprise Vault 14 features today. Happy to take that on an individual basis later on. But Enterprise Vault 14 is what I have configured in my lab. I also have Merge1, which is running on a virtual machine. The Merge1 server is actually connecting into Bloomberg, as well as I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a custom importer with a website. Now, with that data being captured from multiple sources like the Bloomberg and the websites, we will then look at how seamless that information can be looked up or discovered using Discovery Accelerator. Now, your choice of discovery could be the Enterprise Vault web client, or it could be Discovery Accelerator. We'll try to see the seamlessness that Merge1 brings into the table. So with that said, let me just briefly spend time on how the Bloomberg architecture works. Now, if I look at Bloomberg, now Bloomberg is also a platform where you have collaboration as well as communication that comes in together. Now, Bloomberg is, what Merge1 does is it has an ability to export information out of Bloomberg into the Merge1 database. That information is then relayed over to Enterprise Vault over SMTP, or it could be a direct relay into Enterprise Vault as a. So based on how your Enterprise Vault configuration is set up, we can then pipe it into Enterprise Vault using SMTP, or it could just be directly pushed into the EV database. It can also be pushed at an Exchange server, which can then be relayed as a secondary target. Now, all of these configurations have already been done. I didn't really want to spend time on the configuration, but essentially what we are now looking at is Bloomberg going through Merge1 into Enterprise Vault, and then the standard search capability using accelerators or a discovery platform remains identical. So that's how simple it can get. And I will now switch into my browsers. Pat, Ranga, if you could just give me a quick thumbs up if the font is all showing up all right and you can see the browser. Okay, I got a thumbs up. All right. Here, what you see is the dashboard of my Merge1 VM. Now, the Merge1 virtual machine is basically a Windows virtual machine that has .NET and IIS installed. That's pretty much what the basic prerequisite is. And then we have the Merge1 software installed on it. Now, what you see here is the console or the Merge1 console. The dashboard now, because I have a few connectors configured, the dashboard is giving me a quick trend. My connectors have been performing in the last. You can see that there has been an import of about 80 items from a connector. Now it just gives me some more analytics in terms of who's done what importer has done what job. So here, if I see there are about 76 imports coming in from a website, we have 9 imports coming in from Bloomberg, and as and when we start building more connectors, these imports will start showing up better. Now, let me go into the importers. Now, the importers are basically the key of Merge1. And if I start with the importer for Bloomberg, you can now see that Bloomberg has been configured. It is pulling information from Bloomberg into Merge1, and my target here is as simple as an SMTP address, an SMTP address which points into an enterprise vault SMTP archive. So the source is Bloomberg, the target is enterprise vault, and it is just going to start running that on a schedule based on how we want to pull it. Is it daily? Is it on demand? All of the configurations can be put in based on the archiving needs are. Now, it's before I go running more details, I'll show you how easy it is to add an importer. Now here I am now looking at a new importer. Now for simplicity's sake, this could have been any of those 80 plus connectors that we've seen, but for simplicity's sake and for the rest 30 minutes that we have, I'm just going to show you a website importer, and then I'll show how the Bloomberg information has come through as well. So this is a website importer that I'm creating. If I go here, and then you can see all the possible options that Merge1 can provide. So here I'm going to say it. If I had Teams, I will then configure a connector which goes with Teams. Now with Teams, we have two ways of going into Office 365. It could be the Graph APIs, and then the latest or the newer approach is using webhooks. So each and every connector that we have or that is listed here has its own individual mechanism of operations. So the Google Drive API, for instance, goes and uses Google APIs to get into the Google ecosystem, whereas Teams is going to use webhooks, which is the preferred Microsoft way, and that's what Microsoft has asked us to standardize. So webhooks is what Teams would go about. But for this particular short demonstration, I'm going to show you how a simple website could work. So I'm going to select web capture, and it is going to ask me, what URLs do you want to capture? And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to keep it light here. I'm going to use Wikipedia. Sorry, I'm just going to use Wikipedia, and we will try to archive one of the pages of Wikipedia, and I'll show you how that can be configured. In here, I'm going to go search for, say, archive. It's just simply going to, pick up the archive page and, build. All right, so that's fine. I'm just going to do this. Cool. Copy. This is my website that I want to archive. It could be any other use case. As Jeff said, it could be a chat message that keeps coming up from a chatbot on your website. All of those information can be put in. I'm going to say web 01, and I'm just going to push in the website here. I could have the liberty of scanning the entire website, but I'm just going to keep it simple and say one page, do it here. And I want the email, because we are now going to push this into Enterprise Vault. I'm going to put this Enterprise Vault as a archiving target, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to monitor any users, no filters. And the targets here, I can now see what all targets are supported. So this could be an Enterprise Vault server. This could be an Exchange server. It could be, Google Vault. So now you can see that the flexibility that the solution brings in is beyond not just, your one point of archiving. It can be fanned into multiple targets. Now, for this demo, I'm just going to select an SMTP target that gives you, confidence on how the archiving process looks like. I'm going to pick up my web archive, which I have created, and I'm going to say add that. And my SMTP server is basically hosted on my Enterprise Vault lab. I'm just going to do that. And, and here, pretty much we've got this configured, almost done. I'm just going to say that's done. Cool. All right. I've forgotten to give a sender email address. So let me just do that. All right, there we go. And again, this could be your DL, the distribution list as required, and we are sorted. Here, I'm going to put in my credentials. And we should be good to go. Right, save. Even finish. Log folder. I'm just going to put in the log. And that's it. So with this, we have our first web importer created. I'm going to just start the importer. Is going to start importing the URLs straight up from the website. Now I could create multiple, I could create multiple websites, and here I can show you that, I had a previous website which was created, and that could import, the entire website in like less than 10 seconds. So what has happened now is we have imported that website, which is wiki page, back into the Enterprise Vault archive. And now I'm going to go into Enterprise Vault here. This is the web client for Enterprise Vault. All I can see here is my email archives, but I have also created a shared archive which has Bloomberg in it. So if I now go and search on Bloomberg, all the information that was on that particular Bloomberg account has now been pulled into Enterprise Vault. That's the seamlessness that it can bring in. So Bloomberg connector has imported and pushed everything into Enterprise Vault, and Enterprise Vault now has shown me all the information that comes through. So the similar way, I have websites archived, and for the sake of simplicity, this morning I did a Wikipedia archive on journaling, and you can see that it has come through as an email. It has captured the web page as a PDF, which can be searchable. You can apply classification rules on this. And if I open up the PDF, it is going to show me, the entire web page, and its look and feel. This was the wiki page that I archived this morning. It'll take 2 or 3 minutes for our new archive that we ran, which was the email archive. We will come back to that in a minute. But what I'm now going to do is I'm going to move from Accelerator. Now, now that we have completed one part of the circuit where the archived content is pushed into into Enterprise Vault, we are now going to move and see how Discovery Accelerator can actually visualize the same content, and how seamless the searches could look like. Here we are. I'm not sure if all of us are familiar with Enterprise Vault Discovery Accelerator, but Discovery Accelerator is a tool that helps you perform searches in discovery use cases. So here, if you look at the searches that I've already created, I had a search that was created, this morning. And if I go into review and look for Bloomberg, for example, and look for searches that go in Bloomberg, you can now clearly see that all the content that was archived from Bloomberg is visible in Enterprise Vault and Discovery Accelerator. The same thing if I go into a web archive, and if I then start looking at all the searches that I've performed on the web archive, you can now see that the web archive searches can actually do the same PDF that we saw a little while ago. And this is exactly the page that was, the websites that we had archived. Any questions so far, Pat, Ranga, on the chat? Is there any clarification needed so far?
No questions. But I'd like to add is, with using Discovery Accelerator, if you are capturing multiple content sources, using Merge1 and email journaling and also file archiving, you'll be able to use Discovery Accelerator to search across all your archives and find the information that's required. So if, let's say, there's an investigation internally, and investigating a rogue trader, you could add search credentials into Discovery Accelerator to find any information related to that rogue trader, whether it be emails, whether it be files, whether it be communication. So Discovery Accelerator is a very powerful solution to search across an aggregated archive, and then from there you'll be able to review, tag, and then export to a PSD file to then provide to legal counsel, for example.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pat. And it is absolutely in the same lines that we don't want our processes to be impacted if there is a new content source that comes in. So as we looked at our Discovery Accelerator, I'm just coming back into our archive. The importer that we just created for importing a website which was email archiving Wikipedia page has now come back, and the archive now is showing up the list. Here is the page that we had, and if I open that up, it just gives us the PDF which has email archiving called out as part of the archive. So that becomes a straightforward process. Now, if I go back and edit my web capture, it is going to ask me to stop my connector, which is what I will do. Now, what I'm going to show you is how easy it is to now start spanning across multiple pages, right? So here, when I did my target, I will now in my website, I will actually say go, full domain and bring in a depth which is the second level. Now my website is going to be crawled and the second level of links are going to be pulled in. I'm going to save this and I'm going to start the importer. Now what the importer is going to do is it is going to look at the first page. It's probably archived it already. It's not going to do anything much beyond that. And then it will go back and it will give me a report on how much did it come back with. So here it says that it also imported one more link which went to the second site. So essentially what we are talking about is just the ability to customize as much as as easily as we can. And we don't really need to, now that the Enterprise Vault link has been established, we don't need to go and change anything. All you need to just go and is start searching. So that's pretty much on the demo. Pat, Ranga, any other comments, or Jeff, any other comments that you wanted to add on the demo?
I really like the Merge1 console, from the perspective of what it does is it really shows you the status and your different types of connectors, and almost down to the different types of feeds that you're pulling into the organization or integrating to other parts of the business. It's a great way of, in a way, having a modular series of connectors to loosely couple how things talk to other systems from an archival surface perspective. Quite like it.
With that, from a content point of view, we've just looked how that works, but we do have a strong role-based access control mechanism. Now, this is something that can be delegated. The access could be delegated to individual owners of those content platforms. A Slack owner could just have his own role here. We then have comprehensive reporting. Now, this reporting is beyond what goes into the archive, but reporting in terms of how you've been capturing information. There is audit information in there, which keeps talking about each and every action that has been performed. And then we can also look at, if we are looking at a service provider model, we can have some level of branding that can go in as well. So this is the white labeling aspect, and that's short and simple. It just does not need to be complicated. The end targets can be, as I said, it could be an Exchange server, it could be EV server or an SMTP target. So it could be easily used into your standard archiving solution. All right, Pat, if you're talking, you're on mute.
I was going to say even a cloud archive, for organisations that may use other forms of cloud archiving. As long as it's got an SMTP address, we can capture the information using these connectors and then send it to that destination.
Brilliant. Thanks, Pat. All right.
So
if
we've got some other questions, Amit, in the chat window.
Yes, there are some questions. First question is this multi-tenanted? Can it be used for multi-tenancy?
right, so the deployment that we are looking at is a single tenant deployment. We do have options of doing a multi-tenant solution, but I think that's probably a deeper discussion. We should have that as a follow-up conversation, and we'll reach out to you. I can't see the question, but we'll reach out to the person, and we'll follow it up.
Thank you, Amit. The next question is, what are the high availability options around Merge1, ensuring that no loss of data during OS or application updates?
That's right.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's right, and it's a fabulous question, and because if you're looking at Merge1 and what we just saw here, is basically it is a stateless importer. Once the import is done, the immediate need of the importer is to push that into the database. Now, the database that we have is actually something that it's basically a SQL database. Availability is to be configured. And so the database layer or the persistence layer in Merge1 can be highly available. And as soon as Merge1 imports it into a target, it could be Enterprise Vault, Enterprise Vault will always be highly available in the configuration. So the importer configuration is something that is stateless. As long as we have the persistence layer taken care of, we should be good. That's the approach of disaster recovery there.
All right. So one last question here. Is there any information around how data is collected, how collected data is stored and secured?
That's correct. As I said, this information is expected to land, the final destination is expected to land into your archiving platform. So the transient information before and during the collection is something that on the Merge1 server with enterprise, addition of SQL, and that SQL database can follow the same security guidelines as per your organization. So that, yeah, go for it, Pat.
Yeah, and sorry, and to add to that, Amit, is as you saw in the demo, you can also secure the connectors, so to ensure that you've got security when transmitting from the target directly into the source.
That's correct. So we were using HTTPS as well as when it went to SMTP, we also had a secure channel, and then we can also configure some additional security with Merge1. With if it's going through a proxy server, then that's a different configuration altogether. All right. If there are no more questions, I remember that there were 4 questions that we got from the pre-registrations. Pat, would you like to roll over them?
Yes, I sure can. Let me just grab those questions. Okay. So the first question was, how does this fit in with the existing Veritas product, especially Enterprise Vault, and is there a seamless transition from Enterprise Vault to this solution? So as we discussed, Merge1 complements Enterprise Vault by capturing over 80 content sources outside of just email and files. The data captured by Merge1 can then be sent directly into Enterprise Vault to be archived, indexed, and then searched. So the second question we had was, with the massive adoption of Teams, how can we easily tell how much data is used for that platform apart from SharePoint, as Teams uses SharePoint backend? So, one of the many use cases for Merge1 is to capture communication, such as from within Teams and SharePoint, and you could have the option to send this data into an archive repository, which can be stored and searched. Now, this information can then be aggregated to determine how much data is being used by each platform. So you remember, Merge1 is there to capture the information from these data sources and then to send into a different location. Now, another question is, will this product integrate with NetBackup for long-term retention? Now, Merge1 is here to enhance organizations' digital compliance by capturing the content from our 8+ connectors, to store them and then to archive them so they can be served. Now, the main use case is Merge1 is designed to integrate into archiving platforms such as Enterprise Vault and enterprisevault.cloud. So at this time, we don't have an integration into NetBackup in the following roadmap.
But with Merge1 not integrated, EV is already integrated. So once you have aggregated archive back in the EV is anyway integrated to NetBackup, so they can always protect the data. So that should still be a possibility.
Yep, correct. Right on. And lastly, can Merge1 store data in SaaS backup or Enterprise Vault Cloud Personal Archive? So yes, we can definitely store data into ev.cloud Personal Archives. Around SaaS backup, as employed, we've got the ability to also capture and store data into Office 365 archives, which then can be protected by Veritas SaaS backup. So that's the 4 questions that we had that were pre-submitted.
Brilliant. Any other questions on the chat or in the Q&A section?
I've got a comment I'd like to make to everyone. This is Merge1. Obviously, is a capability that we've long worked with and have now acquired. What we might do, because there's been a number of questions specifically around architecture from Jonathan on the call today, and also the questions around service provider-based options from Anthony, we might just pull together as a team about 5 or so slides that really just ground what this is, what it is, and what the key use cases are, and just follow up with that to all concerned, all attendees. I think that would be a great idea. So the only comment from me is that.
No, that's a good call out, Jeff. And given that this is the first time when we are talking and demonstrating Merge1, it is also a good platform for us to understand what are the areas or challenges that are real, and how we would help walk through and address them. So, yep, a deep dive conversation on the architecture is definitely something that we should follow up. All right. If there are no other questions, we still have a bit of time. Let me finish deck that I had. All right. So in a nutshell, what we are really looking at is an ability to comply with the newer regulations that come in. Of course, APRA and OAIC is something that I have seen has evolved in the last couple of years, and I'm sure going further, and the way the industry is moving into remote working, we are going to see more and more compliance regulations coming in through APRA. So this is exactly the point where we have to now contemplate and understand what our going forward strategy is, and Veritas here is to help you comply with the compliance guidelines. So with that said, I have 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, please type in your questions and let us know what your feedback is. If not, feel free to reach out to us on anz.teams@veritas.com. Our endeavor is to respond back to your question by an email, as well as we would want to follow up and have a discussion with you and see how best Veritas can help. Any closing comments, Jeff, Trudy, Pat, and Ranga?
Not from me, other than thank you for attending, and I hope, like myself, you see some value in this and some excitement in that Veritas is expanding what we call our our enterprise data services platform and its insights pillar.
Sounds good. Absolutely. And thank you all for joining in. Stay safe. We had stay home for Victorians in the last session. I'm glad we don't have that anymore. Stay safe. And until next time, thank you from Team Veritas. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.